Well, welcome back to my channel. If you're familiar with my channel at all, you know I have quite the variety. In that variety are some reviews. I have reviewed some power stations in the past, and today we have another one. I would say we have the mother of all power stations. Now, this extremely powerful power station promises to power almost any appliance that you can throw at it, from microwaves and coffee makers to mini fridges, and the list goes on and on. I'm going to be doing a quick unboxing, but then I'm going to be putting this thing to the test. I'm going to be showing you what type of duration you can expect running different appliances. You might want to use this in an off-grid cabin situation. You can couple this with a solar panel and have a true off-grid power source. Now, this puts off no emissions, and you never have to worry about having gasoline on hand. This is great for emergency situations or travel, or like I already mentioned, off-grid cabins. Maybe you're looking to be prepared in case of power outages and long-term power outages. This unit promises to be able to serve your needs. So I'm going to be doing the unboxing, and then we're going to be putting this to the test. Today it's the TOPRAVER 1800. So let's check out what we got inside here. And this is quite the unit. Inside has some literature to claim a solar panel. We do have our user's manual. We have an AC power supply. Cable for solar comes included. Also has our power supply cable. Here we have a carrying case. A 20-foot extension cord for the solar. And then the unit itself. Very well packaged. This unit does have some weight to it. I think it weighs in right around 38 pounds. So as you can see, it has a nice carrying handle. On the back, has a large fan and 2,000 watt AC outlets. Front has an assortment of more outlets. Has 4 different USBs here, different strength. Has a cigarette lighter. It has a DC input. It has a power button here. You can power this unit up. As you can see, it is about 3/4 charged there. It also has a button you can turn your DC power on and your AC power. So I'm going to be putting this TOPRAVER 1800 portable power station to work. Now, that 1800 is 1800 watt hours of power jammed inside this small package. And again, it gives off no emissions, and you'll never need a gas can. Let's put this thing to work out in the field. What has been nearly 2 months since I did the unboxing that you just watched, I want to make sure I did as thorough of a job reviewing this as I possibly could. I wanted to really test it out and check the durability. When you're making an investment of this type, you want it to last, and you want to make sure that this unit is going to work and hold up to the needs. Well, today I'm out here in the middle of nowhere making a pot of coffee. Who doesn't do that, right? Well, with this unit, you absolutely can. That is one of the options. I'm going to share some of my other experiences I've had with this, but stick around to the end. I'm going to give you my final thoughts of the opinions, the pros and cons as I see it on this TOPRAVER power station. Now, as I already mentioned, this can easily run a coffee pot. This one is right around 800-900 watts probably. This has 2 different channels, and you can run 1,000 watts per channel. So you can have 2 different items plugged in up to 1,000 watts. Now, it's up to you to be careful. You have to read either the appliance you want to use. It's usually on the extension cord or somewhere on the label of exactly how much power consumption. This unit does have an Overpower Protection, so if you do plug something in that's too powerful that this unit can't run it, it will shut down. But I would advise you don't want to use that. Please check the appliance you want to run and make sure it's under 1,000 watts. Now, one of the main purposes of me getting this and testing it is I wanted to use it when I do go away or do some camping. Now, I'm not a tenner or a camper, and in fact, this unit would not be very good for that. It weighs nearly 38 pounds, and I will tell you, it feels even heavier than that. You will not be carrying this any long distances, or you're not going to be throwing this in your backpack. It is simply way too heavy for that. But within the last month, I went on a trip out of state hunting. Anytime I do a trip like that, it's usually just camping by the roadside, and that's exactly what I use this unit for. If you spend a couple of days out there, you can power all your laptops. When I came back at the end of the day, I wanted to download footage onto my laptops. I wanted to charge up all my gear, my action cameras, my main cameras. I wanted to run at the campsite. You could run, well, a coffee maker, you can run lights, charge up all the cell phones, and you can do that all at the same time. This really was a versatile unit for that. And again, you cannot stress enough, it has no emissions. It makes no noise except for the internal fan here to keep it cool. That cycles on and off if you're using a lot of power at one time, but even that is relatively quiet. You never have to worry about carrying a gas can, so it is extremely handy. You just simply throw this thing in your truck and off you go. You can use this thing indoors, unlike any gas generator or anything like that. I coupled it with this 100-watt solar panel. This charged it up nicely, and there are times that I also use the AC charger to charge this up. The 100-watt panel does not come with this unit, but you can buy that separately. So on my out-of-state trip, this worked exactly as I needed it to, and in fact, it surpassed any of my expectations. I know you're probably not supposed to, but I hooked a power strip up to one of these two channels that has 1,000 watts. Now again, you have to be very mindful, but when I was just charging cell phones and small batteries and things like that, that power strip allowed me to plug in 6 or 8 different things at one time. Now again, I want to advise you, read your owner's manual and follow those directions. Do as that says, not as I say, but I will tell you just my experiences. I have plugged in a power strip and ran more than 2 different channels off of this unit. You can see this thing's pretty dirty and beat up on the edges. Well, that's because I have been finding, like I said, everyday uses. Around the farm here, I have found this to be extremely handy. There's countless times that I've had projects out and about away from any type of electricity. This allowed me just to throw this on my four-wheeler or my golf cart, and I could take the power tools I needed to do a project nowhere near electricity. In fact, I have a small welder, and I was able to run that a time or two to make some mobile repairs. Again, you have to check your power consumption of any appliance you want to plug in to make sure it falls within the specifications. Another thing, I've used this several different times, is for my battery charger. I have a large 200 amp battery charger for some of my farm equipment. I had a tractor in the middle of nowhere that went dead. Trying to start that with just jumper cables can be a very long and actually impossible process sometimes. I was able to run my battery charger with this and had it started within minutes. I found this very useful for that. Now, as I already mentioned, you can charge this unit with a solar panel. Although the solar panel is not included, it does include 2 20-foot power leads, and that is for your positive and negative to hook up to a solar panel. That makes it nice for a true off-grid cabin, or maybe you have a shed that you want electricity to. You can mount the panels up on the roof, and as long as you're within 20 feet, you can keep this unit charged. Also included with those extension cords are Y cables. It's going to take 2 panels and plug it into one. That's already included in this kit. Very handy, and you can have a true off-grid power source using solar power and this power station. Now I'm going to enjoy a cup of coffee, but then I will meet you back inside where we're out of the wind, and I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this TOPRAVER Power Station 1800. Well, it is time for my final thoughts. I want to give you the pros and cons as I see it, or at least my opinions after using this unit for over 2 months now. Let's start off with the pros. This thing worked exactly as I expected it to, or exactly as I needed it to. Basically anything you can throw at it as far as charging, laptops, cell phones, any types of batteries, anything like that, it can charge those probably hundreds of times. Again, you can figure out the usage by, this is an 1800 watt hours, so you can figure out what the consumption of what you want to plug in is, do the math and see exactly how many hours or how many hundreds of hours you can charge a laptop or a phone. When using bigger appliances, it's nice that it has two different channels that each provide 1000 watts of power. Now I will say I have maxed that out. I have accidentally plugged something in that took over 1000 watts, and it does have overload protection. It actually ran that appliance for a few seconds, and then the overload kicked on and it shut this unit down. So that's another plus, that it has that overload protection. Again, I can't stress enough, you must know how much draw the appliance is before plugging it in. You don't want to simply rely on this overload protection. Another plus that I see with this, you can use it while you're recharging it. You can be discharging it up front here with different appliances, or using the AC adapter, plus be charging it with the sun. So that is great if you have it in an off-grid cabin or you're using it in an emergency situation. You can be charging it plus using it at the same time. The last positive, and probably one of the biggest ones, or at least in my mind, I wanted to touch on, is the need for no gas. There is no emissions, and you can use this indoors. We're so used to gas generators in case of emergency, or maybe at your cabin or in a camping or tenting situation. You always have to worry about the gas. You have to be very mindful of the emissions. It can be deadly. This has no emissions. It can be used indoors, and you never have to use gas. You can simply use the sun or an AC power to charge it back up. Now there are a couple of cons. None of them have to do with the functionality. Like I already mentioned, this thing functioned flawlessly. It worked perfectly. Everything I needed it to do, it did. But the simple weight of this unit, like I said, even compared to other gas generators, it's not heavy. But this thing does weigh 38 pounds in this little package. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. It feels heavy to carry it around. You'll feel it, and you won't carry it very far. Just because of 38 pounds in such a small package. There's a ton of lithium-ion batteries packed inside this unit. So that would be a little bit of a con. You obviously are not going to use this in a backpacking situation. You're not going to carry this long distances. So you have to have a specific plan in mind on where you're going to be using this, and you're probably going to let it sit at one spot as often as possible. Another con is just the price of it. They are not cheap units. It's definitely an investment. But when you figure in how many uses you can get out of this, that it can power a cabin, or maybe in emergency situations, it really could be life savings. If you have power out at your house for several days on end, many other power stations or power units simply are not going to have enough power to last for that long, or you're going to need gas. And again, with a power outage, that can be troublesome trying to have gas to put into a generator. So just having the peace of mind of knowing you have this power on standby makes it a little easier to swallow when you see the price tag. The last con that I'm going to touch on is a rather minor one. It's just probably more of a personal preference for me, but the digital readout here gives a barcode of how much power is left here. I kind of wish it would give a reading, a number reading, maybe how many hours are left or how much of the charge is left. It just simply has a bar guide there, like I said, and you have to try to figure out there when it's at half power or 3/4 power just by how many bars are left. In me, I wish they would have added a little bit more here to the digital display. It does show the numbers of exactly how many watts you're using. So if you have something plugged in or you have a cell phone that's charging, it will show the power consumption in numbers, but the actual charge left in this unit is up to a bar guide. That's a little bit of a con, not a deal breaker, but for convenience sake, I just wish it would have gave a number readout of the power left. Well, those were my final thoughts of this TOPRAVER power station. Again, if this is something you have a use for, I truly believe this is a good unit. It has held up well for me. I've been pretty rough on this guy, throwing it around here on the farm, and actually been carrying it around in my buggy and using that as a portable mechanic station. I found it extremely handy for that. This unit has held up and I've had zero issues. If you want more information or if you're interested in buying one for yourself, there's going to be a link down in the description. Feel free to check that out. If you have comments or questions, I'll do my best to answer those. You can leave them down in the comments section. As always, I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.